This week on Cageside Seats, the podcast, we're talking Royal Rumble hits and misses, magical girl gimmicks, and how you don't have to be Jack Bauer to have a rough 24 hours.
Welcome to Cageside Seats, the podcast. We don't have a good name, but we do have great opinions. I'm your host, Stella Cheeks, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Marcus Benjamin.
Hey, people, and as always, hi, Stella.
How are you feeling about wrestling this week? I gotta tell you, I'm feeling not great.
I am feeling very conflicted about wrestling this week from a level of the actual wrestling we got, and then from the level of the actual people who wrestle. Yeah, it's been weird and not great. Like you said, just not great.
I feel like it's almost an unfair thing to ask at the beginning of the podcast. Like, how do you feel about wrestling this week? Because wrestling is such a hit or miss thing, especially with how much wrestling there is on, because there can be the highest high and then just like all of the stuff you have to drudge through. So it's kind of an unfair question, but I will continue to ask it.
That's all good. I like unfair questions. It's fine. Put my feet to the fire, just like these wrestlers.
Speaking of unfair, unjust things, did you hear that Shane McMahon was fired from WWE?
Clutch the pearls. What will that billionaire ever do? Oh my God. So I have a group of friends where there's an inside joke that Shane is all in the videos. And all in the videos is this thing that Suge Knight once said about Puff Daddy way back in the day. And that's who Shane was. You know, we talked about this. When Shane would come back, oh man, it was great. And then Shane just never left to make you miss Shane. And he kept inserting himself in the biggest moments, in the biggest matches.
Shane's that friend that comes over and is fun at the party, but then when it's time to leave, doesn't get the hint. And you're like, okay, like it's done. Like I'm doing the dishes. I'm collecting all the beer bottles. Like everybody else is left. I'm in pajamas now. I left to put on pajamas. Like, can you please leave?
It's that episode of Seinfeld where Jerry and Elaine and George were out at this party in Long Island. Everybody left. George left because he was going to have sex with this woman. And Jerry and Elaine were just stuck there. Meanwhile, the people who threw the party just like, so when's your friend coming to pick you up? And what's going on about that? And that's how it was with Shane.
Welcome to Cageside Seats, a podcast where we recap old episodes of Seinfeld for you.
Not just old episodes, like season 2 episodes of Seinfeld. Good Lord.
We were making a joke before we started recording that it was almost hard to collect rumors this week because everything would start off as a rumor and then become confirmed.
Yeah, it started
rumors are people aren't happy with Shane McMahon. Right. Shane McMahon has been fired.
Right. They're not happy with Shane because apparently he booked the Royal Rumble. Then it turned to, well, no, he was angry about his ideas not being accepted for the Royal Rumble, but he did book himself into a prominent position in Royal Rumble. Then, yeah, he's gone now. It was insane how that happened. And it started as a rumor. And a lot of us were just like, eh. And then, you know, once the big time wrestling journalists reported, we were like, oh, he's really gone. That's insane.
The biggest mistake, not the biggest mistake, one of the biggest mistakes WWE has ever made. LOL, it probably doesn't even make top 10. A big mistake that WWE has made is trying to turn Shane McMahon into a legitimate wrestler. Like, if he was just a talking head or somebody whose fun theme song hit and came out and did like a silly spot and continued to exist in that special occasion realm, people would be happy to see him. Like, he needed a spot like Ivory. Ivory had the best spot. Her music hit. Yes. Everybody freaked out. She cut a great promo and then she took a bump. Like, that was perfect. That was perfect.
And that's what should have happened. You know, like with Shane, it made sense for him to be that wrestler during the Attitude Era when it was just anything goes. And it made sense for him to be like, I'm going to beef with X-Pac and I'm going to call him X-Punk.
But he was also Daddy's Little Rich Kid, right? That was his thing. He was literally buying up companies and stuff. But now he's
Right,
just
exactly.
like a literal old man who just shows up and ruins things.
Right. It makes sense when you're in your 20s and like your daddy's boy and you got your own group, the Mean Street Posse, and you're gonna go and just be rich like daddy and take over the company. That's what the whole angle was of, man, Shane's gonna be in charge one day and he's gonna run this place and he's making these wrestlers' lives a living hell. That was great for then, but now you got Shane running Raw Underground. And
I
then you
forgot
got
about Raw Underground.
so did they.
Oh man. I have the memory of a goldfish, so I truly exist in a pretty great place when it comes to pop culture because I just forget the awful things that happen for the most part. Raw Underground.
Raw Underground
Sick.
gave us almost.
Raw Underground did give us almost.
Yes, it gave us almost. And apparently it gave us the last vestige, the last big idea for Shane McMahon. May he
tapped.
rest in his billions.
You know, you reach a certain age and maybe you can't come up with new gimmicks. You know, Chris Jericho has been coming up with new gimmicks forever. Now he's trying Chris Jericho, the influencer. Maybe this gimmick's not a good gimmick. Maybe we've tapped out on gimmicks. Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't have good ideas anymore.
He did call himself the influencer on Dynamite. That's right. He did that.
Okay, but if he releases a makeup line with a lipstick called the Painmaker, I will buy it.
I mean, he's already got the whole eyeliner. He's got all that. He's good. He can do that, and he'll probably have his own fashion line because it's very Rihanna with the hat and
Can you
with the
imagine a
pants.
Chris Jericho fashion line? It would just be like really expensive jackets. It would be like Ed Hardy. It would be like Ed Hardy style, but also like aged rocker dad. Oh man, it would be something.
It's perfect for the classic rock. You rock your Painmaker attire along with your bat, and you come watch Kiss.
Credit where credit is due. I have seen Judas and not Judas. I call his band Judas now because that stupid song.
I mean, they may as well be.
Seen Fozzy in concert, and it's a pretty good time.
I do. I believe that because
he's a performer, right?
Right. We're cracking on Jericho, but there's a reason Jericho's lasted as long as he's lasted, and like been pretty decent to okay. Like as a performer, he still works. He still knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he, unlike Shane McMahon, has not won his welcome yet. And but that's also a sign of the times. We talked about last week. Things are changing in WWE.
They're not a mom and pop company anymore. You can't run to daddy.
Right. Once we're not mom and pop anymore, that means it's time for the kids to fly on their own, unless their name is Stephanie. Then that's a different
Yeah, but
story.
Stephanie knows how to play the game. Stephanie is like, I will be corporate as hell. Look at my blazer.
Yeah. When the blazer is on, I am corporate Stephanie McMahon. Right. When the blazer's off, then I'm getting in the ring with Ronda Rousey. That's how that works with Stephanie.
No, it's when the blazer's off, I'm wearing a full dominatrix outfit and escorting my husband to the ring.
I guarantee you Sonya Deville got not only her outfit from Royal Rumble from Stephanie McMahon, but that whole idea of when the blazer's on, I am this. When the blazer's off, I am that. Like, I know she is doing a Stephanie impression.
We're going to get an explicit rating if we talk about Sonya Deville's outfit.
Well, we're not going to do that then. We're going to move ahead because there are children potentially listening. Hi, kids. Ask your parents.
So, WWE, not a mom and pop company anymore. They said that last week, and they said it in numbers this week because WWE made $1 billion with a B. B.
Right. If my mom and pop made $1 billion, we wouldn't be recording this podcast. That's for sure. That's for damn sure. Props to them, man. And this is also what we talked about yesterday.
You are the most positive person, Marcus. Like, it's hard. We've only done this podcast for like a month, and you are always like silver lining, bright side person. And I'm like, boo, capitalism, boo, bootlickers. And you're like, you know what? It's a business. I respect it.
But it's one of those things where we talked about last week. When we got that question about AEW and about WWE and about Rocky and Clubber Lang, that just shows it. They're not in that business. Like they're in a different league. And the one thing that I will boo, besides capitalism, yes,
Yeah.
it's that they make all this money and they keep making all these roster cuts, and they keep wanting to tell us, well, it's budget cuts. It's budget cuts.
Well, and they
We're
don't pay for
tightening our
their
belt.
health insurance, and the
Right,
performers have to pay for their own flights and their
right,
own hotels and
right.
blah, blah, blah. Like, girl, you have $1 billion
Nah, but it's
and
mine
you
though.
have a tiny roster comparatively.
Yeah, but
Pay
it's
for
mine
some
though.
stuff.
I agree. Like, like help them out. And then it makes it even worse when someone like Ali is saying, hey, I want my release. Hey, I want my release. And they're like, nah. Well, he's an independent contractor though. If you can fire him at will, which I believe is the clause of an independent contractor, he should be able to leave at will. And when you're making $1 billion with a B for the first time in your history, your storied history, why are you holding on to Ali?
Pettiness.
Exactly.
Pettiness.
Much like any $1 billion company, they're going to hold grudges and they're going to do stupid stuff and ridiculous stuff. And it sucks.
It's almost like the people who negotiate the contracts for the wrestlers care more about the business than the people.
Yeah. Yeah. Shocking. It's funny. Like we're not going to get too far on a tangent on this because this is a whole different can of worms. But I was having a conversation with my friends earlier about the NFL and their issues this week, which, I'm not going to bore Stella with them because I know she gets when we talk about sports, specifically football.
I'm a
but
really
just know,
good sport about it.
clever. But just know, Stella, there were charges of racism this week in the NFL.
Oh, I know the story.
Okay.
I'm a messy bitch who loves drama. Like, I'm here for the drama. I just don't care about the game.
Right. So while we're talking about that, there was a couple questions from my group of friends and then just on the internet in general. Well, where's Jay-Z in all this? Because Jay-Z partners with the NFL. And Jay did a photo op with Roger Goodell and other league execs a couple summers ago, just saying that, hey, me joining with them and is really going to change things and we're going to work to do things differently and blah, 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 blah. When mostly it's just Jay, at least from the outside looking in, it's Jay making it so that Rock Nation handles the music and everything for big NFL events like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people in the Illuminati are just like doing their own thing.
and to that point, that's where it comes down. Like, well, why doesn't Jay say anything? Why hasn't Jay spoken out about this? Why hasn't Jay, said something about the racism? And I'm going, because he's Jay-Z and he's a businessman, and that's he's always been that. WWE has always been a business.
I'll be the Marcus in the situation. I'll be the one looking on the bright side. Sometimes billionaires make good decisions, like having somebody on your show, debuting on your show, and then finding out that they're a Holocaust denier, and then being like, you know what? Never mind. They don't get to be on our show.
That was a good move by Tony Khan. I say we applaud him for doing the he made a layup. Good for Tony.
Yeah, applaud him for doing the thing that he shouldn't do. For those of you who don't know, Brian Kendrick got released from WWE, and then I guess he didn't have a 90-day compete clause or something. So immediately they were like, there was a graphic that went up on Tuesday night during NXT that said, Jon Moxley versus Brian Kendrick on AEW Dynamite tomorrow. And everybody was like, whoa, cool. That sounds so fun. Like, I was excited. That sounded like a dope match. And then the next day, a video of Brian Kendrick was going around the internet. And it's an old video, but, it wasn't just like a random tweet. It was an intense video of him saying some truly awful anti-Semitic conspiracy theory bananas stuff, and it got picked up and it really made the rounds. Like, the two things trending on wrestling Twitter were Shane McMahon and Brian Kendrick, and
two guys who are not Jack Bauer.
Yeah, and Tony Khan, an hour before the show, tweeted, it has come to my attention that this dumb idiot said a bunch of awful stuff, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and so I'm going to do the right thing here. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure it was almost verbatim.
He didn't say, you know what? I disagree with Brian Kendrick, but we're still going to keep him on the show. Watch Dynamite tonight at 8 p.m.
Yeah. He did not close out that tweet with "Suck it, nerds."
He didn't close out that tweet with, I have a lot of friends who will not deny the Holocaust. You don't hear me talking about them, do you? Watch Dynamite tonight at 8 p.m. He didn't do that.
So we're now put in a position where we are applauding a billionaire for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
For doing the bare minimum. But that is... Yeah. I'm honestly shocked and really happy that he did do that. Now, if he could only find it in his heart to stop putting Dan Lambert on TV, that would be...
But before we can get to that, yes, Brian Kendrick, bye-bye.
He has, quote, issued an apology. You can read it and make your opinion yourself.
Yeah. His apology, whatever. No thanks. Tony Khan did the right thing, as you said. I don't know what else to say about that. Tony Khan did the right thing. Brian Kendrick's a mess. Whatever. Now, here's a question. Before I even get to the Dan Lambert part. Do you think if this were, say, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley himself?
Yeah, it was bad. It wasn't a random tweet from 10 years ago where somebody made an off-color, like, sexual assault joke or saying something that could be viewed as racist or whatever. It was deeply, deeply offensive. And it is not something that is honestly walk-backable. Like, he issued an apology, but that's not enough. I'm not saying that people can't change their opinions. Take, for instance, Randy Orton, when he came out and was like, hey, I used to say a bunch of stuff like all lives matter and things like that. But after sitting down and talking to my friends and being educated, I realized I was in the wrong. And I apologize. Yeah. And now he's besties with egos. But like that showed real growth. Like saying I did something wrong and I am rectifying what I did. Could he have done more? Yeah, of course. But like Brian Kendrick basically was like, sorry, it said something dumb 10 years ago. Sorry I hurt your feelings or whatever.
Yeah, he did that thing. Yeah. Oh, you're right. And I knew the answer. I only asked because that's a question that people would definitely say, well, hey, what if it was a bigger name on AEW's roster? And to your point, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, that was it was pretty vile.
Yeah. If that was a bigger name, then it would have been a bigger story. And Tony would have really had no choice. His hands were completely tied at that point with barbed wire even.
And it was caught on tape. It wasn't like it wasn't like a Tessa Blanchard situation, right? Where like a bunch of people have said Tessa Blanchard says racist things in the locker room, has done things and has acted in a certain way. I believe those people. I believe that to be true. Tessa Blanchard used to be one of my favorites. I threw all of her t-shirts away and was like, okay. But it's very different. It's not different. It shouldn't be different, but it is different, sadly, when something is actually caught on tape. Like you can't really be like, it's a deep fake.
Ask Hulk Hogan about that. Footage matters, man. Well, to them, but not to the other billionaire who's like, yeah, we'll suspend you for a little bit, but hey, Hulk, welcome back to the fold. It's all good. The Dan Lambert, real quick, just the Dan Lambert and Brandy thing from Dynamite. I don't know why. Maybe I'm getting older. Like my birthday's next week, so maybe that's what it is. I'm getting older, but we're gonna shoot on each other, quote unquote, shoot on each other, and we're gonna say the most outlandish things we can say about each other. And Dan Lambert saying how Brandy's former job used to be bending over backwards. It's just like,
it's gross.
It's not like, it's not only is it gross, and she's obviously cool with it, so I'm not trying to cape for Brandy or nothing like that. Like, she's cool with it. But just as a viewer, I don't like seeing that. And I definitely don't like seeing a Black woman in power demeaned by anyone, much less, an older white guy. But I don't like seeing a Black woman in power, and she is a powerful person in that company, be demeaned because it's like, oh, well, you only have this job because of who you are married to and sleeping with. And then of course him making fun of her chest, which I was just like, is this 1998, man? Like, it reminded me of Jericho making fun of Stephanie.
Yeah, I I agree that consent of performers is important, but as a female viewer and as a viewer with a brain, I don't think that that actually makes it okay at all in this scenario. There are a lot of people who watch that show who would find that those comments not just offensive, like, oh, heel heat, but like that is personally demoralizing and demeaning to like who I am as a person, and that isn't okay. Like that's not fun heel heat, that's not smart heel heat. It's really really lazy, and it shows to me that you're actually not a good performer. People say that Dan Lambert's a good performer. He's not. He has charisma, I guess, and he doesn't trip over his words. But being a good performer is being able to get somebody on your side, whether that be as a babyface or as a heel, without resorting to like cheap tricks or without othering people. I was so furious about his comments about the Blackhawks and the Cleveland Indians. I thought that that was really really poor taste, really disgusting, and especially in a show where like literally somebody got kicked off the show for making racist comments, and
Right.
but it's just okay to come out here and be like, oh well, Chicago's like a snowflake town, or like Cleveland's a snowflake town because they changed their offensive name when people were like, hey, that's offensive to us because that's my heritage. Like that is gross. Dan Lambert is gross. And you know what, the thing that makes me even more mad as like a wrestling fan, not even as like a person who thinks that we shouldn't be making fun of people's genders or sexualities or heritage or race for cheap pops. Like it's one thing if you're like, hey, your sports team sucks. Like who cares? That's cheap and dumb, but it works. It shouldn't be
Right.
like, hey, you're a girl, so you know you must be a slut. Like that's not
Right. And that's basically what he's doing. It's like your former job. I'm like, her former job was a journalist, bruh. Like,
yeah,
what are
and she
you?
was like a really good ring announcer. She was actually really good at
Right.
her job in WWE.
Yeah. Like she was a ring announcer in WWE. And before that, she was, like she has a legitimate journalism degree. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like and that's not an easy job. That's tough.
I think it shows that Brandy is actually a pretty weak performer when it comes to being on the mic. I think that also made that segment kind of made her look foolish because she couldn't keep up with his vitriol, because I don't think that she is actually a bad person. And so when she was like speaking
Yeah.
that way, it seemed performative, whereas like from my opinion, it seems like Dan Lambert has like a lot of hatred in his heart. But the thing that pisses me off even more is the people that he's talking for, like Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, Lance Archer. Not a single one of them needs a manager, and not a single one
Right.
of them needs him to talk
They
for
don't.
him specifically to talk for them. Specifically Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, who are both fantastic wrestlers and who are both incredible talkers. I literally do not understand that. And Lance Archer, he has a manager.
Yeah. Jake, who came out last night and talked. He didn't talk very well, but he talked.
Yeah, but
And
it did feel like Jake was like, ooh, Lambert's going too far. I need to say
yeah,
something.
right. Yeah, that entire segment, it felt like everyone kept cutting him off because they knew
Being
where he
like,
was going. Like Jake cut him off, and obviously Lance Archer came through and cut everyone off. Before that, Hangman's in the ring cutting him off. Like everyone's just trying to be like, oh my god, this dude's about to say something stupid. Hey man, no, no, no. Like even the snowflake comment, Hangman quickly came in and said, no, 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 no. What are you talking about? I don't give a like whatever. Like he just interjected. Like everyone's trying to cut him off. And to your point, Brandy cannot do that because she is playing a role that she does not fit. And I don't think she really knows how to get hill heat on her through the mic. People, she gets in the ring and people just boo her because she's Brandy, because she's married to Cody. Okay, fine. But don't put her in a position where she now has to go out and talk and be that character, because that's not her character. She's not
yeah.
Stephanie. Like she's not. Stephanie could go out there and do that. Brandy's not there. And that's not to say Stephanie's a bad person, but Stephanie can turn that thing on, whatever that thing is. I don't think Brandy has that.
You know what Brandy
And
needed? Oh, it's so obvious. Brandy needed a blazer. It would have.
Oh, right. You're right. When the blaze was on. Right.
I think Dan
When
Lambert probably would have respected her if she had a blazer.
he would have, or if she came out dressed like a dominatrix, or actually probably not, because then he would have made more jokes.
Yeah, she could have just been like, yeah, I am. Get on the ground. Anyways,
right.
Marcus,
Yep.
we have tangented enough. What is living rent-free in your head this week? That's not Dan Lambert.
The thing that's living rent-free in my head this week, which is not Dan Lambert or Brandy. Well, Brandy sometimes, but we don't want to get an explicit rating. NXT it's just so weird. Like we have these conversations during the show while you're tweeting and I'm watching it about the writer recap. It's such a weird show. And there are times when I'm fascinated by that weirdness. There are other times when I'm bored to tears by it. But I'm always just like, man, they are always trying something. And I want to give them props for always just trying something. And even if I'm just like, wow, they're completely missing the mark here, or wow, that was just really weird, or okay. Like, this week, like last week in NXT, we had a musical performance. All right. Yeah. No thanks. But this week,
bad, right?
Yeah.
It was bad. Either sing the song live or lip sync it.
Yep.
Don't talk over your track.
Yep.
That was
bad idea.
Ridiculous. Hire a drag queen to teach you how to lip sync. Just do that.
Yeah, it was not great. This week we get a much faster moving show. NXT always moves fast. There's rarely a time when it doesn't move fast. And then we get the stuff they're doing with Braun and with Tommaso and with Escobar. And then you got the stuff they're doing with Cameron Grimes and Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams in the background. And then we got the stuff with Gunther and Imperium and the Diamond Mine. And then
the Dusty Cup.
Then we get the Dusty Cup, but then we've got the stuff we got this stuff with Kaylee Ray and Mandy Rose, which is like is meta, but also not meta. It's meta where Mandy's talking about like, look at me, dude. I am what every woman in this place should look like. I'm what a champion should look like.
When Kaylee Ray was like, yeah, that literally has nothing to do with wrestling. I was
right.
like,
right. And that was the point. So it's like, so on one hand, Mandy's speaking for, I guess we consider management when she's like, look at me. I'm supposed to look, this is what you should look like. And Kay is like, yeah, no, that's not it. Not
also,
at all.
I don't know if you saw this, but Kaylee Ray tweeted a really like modelly sexy photo of her later that day, I think. And I was like, that is chef kiss. Like, you don't have to say it on the TV. You don't have to be like, yeah, I look hot in underwear too. Just like subtly tweet a picture of you in your underwear being like, yeah, I can do this too. I also happen to have a scary baseball bat.
Right, exactly. So I'm dangerous and sexy. and then you have like this weird sophomoric humor from the Attitude Era where you got Idris Enofe and Malik Blade like lusting after Toxic Attraction on a weekly basis now. And then flashbacks. Lusting after Toxic Attraction on a weekly basis. And then Mandy just falls into his lap. And then he's like, I don't want to get up because he's got an erection. It's just like, what show is this? Yeah, Wade Barrett made the joke too. Yeah. Like he made a joke.
Hard times.
Right. He's like hard times or like standing at attention or whatever he said. I was like, what is going on this show?
It's so frenetic because there's things that are really, really working, right? Like Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes, Cameron Grimes, that whole feud, great. Everybody's killing it. And the way that, because Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes are fire on the mic. They are great, but they're really like aggressive, right? And Cameron Grimes is also really good at the mic, but he's the like lackadaisical, just laughing, whatever. And they balance each other out really well. That segment was fantastic. I can't wait for their feud. The Braun Breaker, Tommaso Ciampa stuff, while I'm personally not super interested in them as wrestlers right now, it makes a lot of sense. It's a good follow-up. It's kind of a mentor-mentee thing. Breaker and Blackheart, that sounds like a great tag team name. That makes a lot of sense. Wendy Chu Crew for life. She rules.
She's great. Yes. That was great. That was awesome. Their match, and just that. Yeah, she's gonna spend Daddy's credit card now, and now Tiffany Stratton has a beef with her now over that, and I'm just like, okay, cool, all right,
Yeah, some of the
yeah,
irreverent, silly things do work, and I understand
yeah,
part of NXT is just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And sometimes a sleepy wrestler it works, right?
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
sometimes you have a gimmick that is maybe going to work, but it needs more time, like the Saray bit. Um,
yeah,
I like the kind of magical girl stuff because I
mm-hmm.
am a
Matt, you're a
fan
magical
of
girl. Yeah.
that genre. I
Mm-hmm.
was disappointed in the transformation. Like, I wish that she had like an actual video transformation scene or something. Like, they have the budget, they have $1 billion.
They
Give
have
me
a
an
with
old
a B,
school
people.
give me an old school
Jeez.
transformation scene. But
Right.
I'm willing to see where it will go. I mean, we got a nice week for magical girls, like that plus Sasha Banks's incredible year. Like, I'm tangenting on your bit a little bit, but
No, it's all good. It's
it
good.
was a
We're talking about Sasha. You know how I feel about Sasha. It's fine.
that gear was incredible.
The only shame is that she was tossed out of the ring too quickly.
It was so shocking,
Yeah.
especially considering she hasn't been in a Rumble since the first one. She entered number
Mm-hmm.
1. In that one, she
Mm-hmm.
was the Iron Man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she was one of the favorites to win, even if she was never going to win because of Ronda Rousey. Like, she came back. It was surprising that she came back the night before the
Mm-hmm.
Rumble, and then she
Mm-hmm.
just gets unceremoniously tossed. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. I'm just saying it was an interesting week for magical girl gimmicks, but some gimmicks need a little time to breathe, and then there are gimmicks and things in WWE that are just weird and not working, or it's the
Like Von Wagner.
childlike. Yeah, Von Wagner. What is this guy?
Yeah, like Von Wagner is just it's not happening. And then there was the I forget her name, the woman who had the vignette, and you were like, oh my god, she looks like this now.
Well, she was a wrestler on WoW. So
Yes.
I think
Mm-hmm.
her name on in WoW Women of Wrestling, she was the Lioness. And she
Mm-hmm.
still had like a musical gimmick. That was kind of her thing
Mm-hmm.
because I think her dad was actually like in a small ish rock band.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom's a groupie. But so she had a musical gimmick and she had some songs. They weren't like fantastic, but they worked for her gimmick. And she was clearly a pretty green new wrestler, but she had a lot of potential. And so when she got signed with WWE, I was excited. I liked her stuff in WoW, and working specifically in a division that's meant to help train you with like people. I think that she has I think she has, sky's the limit. I think she has she has huge potential in NXT. She has thickened up quite
Yeah, that's
extensively.
putting it mildly. That's putting it
Um,
very mildly. Yeah.
so it's a good
I
look.
believe your exact words were she is full thirst trap mode right now.
Thumbs up from Stall Cheeks. Um, I do think she's really good on the mic too. Like, her promos in WoW were good, but that song
That's
rap,
where I was getting to. Yep, there
Shrek
we go.
song, whatever that they had
Yeah.
her sing,
Slash
to-
rap.
totally ruined that whole pretty baller vignette because it was
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah, I believe it's you cannot do both. All right, if you're gonna be a musician, they're either going to be a singer or a rapper. Do whichever one they do really well. If rapping's not your thing, and I can say this as someone who tried to teach people to rap once, just sing. Just do that. She had a good voice.
Yeah,
Let her
she's a pretty good
sing.
singer.
Yeah, and so now after last week's hard performance, we now follow that up with someone else who can sing, but now they're rapping, and the rapping's not great. So it's again, you're throwing a lot of stuff at the wall, but they're really trying to figure out, okay, what do these people do really well, and how do we go to their strengths, and and work on their weaknesses. And I think when you introduce someone the way they did with that really cool vignette, like you said, then you need to put their best foot forward. And if rapping's not her thing, or she doesn't, and people looked at that before they aired it. Like a whole bunch of people did a quality assurance on that, and they all said, "Yeah, this is good.
I think
This is
we've
fine."
established that there's nobody on WWE's roster that knows how to say, I have notes. I think we've established that roundly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But like even, well, I guess Carmelo and Trick didn't see it, but I would think. But I know Shawn Michaels said about Carmelo that, hey man, I don't know what's cool anymore. You got to tell me. So clearly Carmelo didn't see that, because Carmelo would have been like, yeah, nah, we're
I think
not
not.
doing that. Not for her. Like, cut the rapping part, keep the singing part. She looks great. She can go. She's got a good backstory. Cool. So but it's gonna be interesting seeing that backstory of musician slash my parents. I have a rock dad musician, a groupie mom, with Tiffany Stratton's, oh, I'm daddy's little girl and daddy's rich. So, we're really doing that. And it really does feel like a throwback to the Attitude Era, especially with women like Tiffany, like Mandy, who, again, not saying they can't wrestle, but there's definitely that going back to that look.
Right. Well, it's like I said last week, they are gimmicks being written and performed through a male gaze, and it is very weird and not great, especially since NXT for a long time there were sexy gimmicks, but it didn't feel cheap, and it didn't feel performative, exploitative. Yeah. Which is part of the reason that the Kaylee Ray stuff was like very good this week.
Yeah, I love that. And I love running. Last week I said I love running themes throughout my show. Like that, the fact that Kaylee Ray beat her ass the entire show.
My favorite part of it was how Kaylee Ray is clearly just a beast in the ring, but is not reliable at a food fight.
No.
she almost missed with the spaghetti. Right, and then she threw the cake almost like too hard that it just kind of bounced off of me.
And then she almost missed with the spaghetti. Like the gigantic bowl of spaghetti. It's like she misjudged where Mandy's head was. And it's like it hit her neck. And then she said, oh, damn, that's her neck. All right, fine. And she just pushed it on her.
You got to know your strengths and weaknesses. Really kill her with a baseball bat. Not great in a food fight. That's okay.
No, but also a great kidnapper. Still don't know where Gigi and JC are. No idea.
Hey, I think that NXT title runs in general are kind of consistently too long. And if we hot potato the women's title for a little bit, I think that's okay. So I'm here for a Kaylee Ray win.
Well, that's NXT, and that's why I'm living in my head rent free. What about yours?
Smooth as butter transition. The thing that is living rent free in my head is just kind of WWE's women's title scene in general. I kind of shared my opinions about the NXT title scene, specifically with the main title. Kind of who knows what's happening with the women's titles. I guess they're preparing for a women's Dusty Cup. We have Cora Jade and Raquel Gonzalez. Cora Jade earned her respect. I don't know why she had to earn her respect again after like popping her shoulder back into
what's
place
funny?
and winning the match.
I wrote that and then I pulled and I erased it because I was like, oh, Cora asked for this match.
She asked for it because Raquel was being a jerk and was like, I don't trust you to like pull your weight. It's like, I won that match with like a messed up shoulder.
Right. And so I erased it, but I'm like, well, but still, yeah, you're right. Continue. It doesn't make any sense.
So there's that in NXT. I think that the thing with NXT for me is there's a lot of good. There's just a lot and it's hard to wade through everything, but that's kind of what developmental is, I guess. The main WWE women's title scene. We'll talk about it now. Ronda Rousey's back. She won. The women's Rumble. I had a good time watching the women's Rumble because for me personally, when I watch a Royal Rumble, I don't really care about the cleanliness of the matches. I'm really there for the like screaming pops. Like I literally was sitting there and I said, this next one better be Brie, and then Brie mode hit and I was like, yeah. Like that's what I'm there for. I'm there to yell about Ivory and be excited that my faves are back. And like, do I wish that it was a better planned match? Yeah, of course. I wish Sasha had lasted longer. I think the final like 4 could have been more interesting. There are definitely like spots that were missed. I think there was clearly a spot between like Nikki at ASH and Rhea that was like missed because Nikki just stood there for a while. I wish that like Molly could have gotten in the ring before Nikki took her out because Molly's an incredible wrestler. It was not a great match. I had fun because I like women's wrestling and I liked seeing all those people. But even if it was the best women's Rumble match ever, it still would have been ruined because stupid Ronda Rousey came out with her stupid makeup, her stupid walk, and her stupid jacket, and she came in the ring, and then she stupid won.
Don't forget her shirt that said baddest.
Her stupid shirt. Credit where credit is due. It is really impressive that she had a baby 4 months ago and came back and kicked butt. Like that is impressive. Even if I don't like her as a performer or like her in WWE, that is really impressive. And credit where credit is due. The female body is dope as hell. Shout out to ladies, I guess.
Shout out to the women.
Yeah. Shout out to the women.
I was going to do a Beyonce song, and I said, nope. Know your strength. Singing is not one of mine.
See? You got to know your strengths. So Ronda Rousey wins. There were rumors before that she was going to win and actually fight Charlotte and not Becky, even though Becky and Ronda have the history. That kind of seems like that's playing out because it was Charlotte and Ronda in the ring together at the end. So that you could easily build on that. But then on Monday night, we had the very awkward promo between Ronda and Becky, where Ronda couldn't really hold her own. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to hold your own with Becky, right? Like Becky walks out looking like a sexy playing card and calls Ronda a little weirdo. Sean tweeted something about like, here's some future inspiration for Becky's outfits. And I think it was a comic book picture from a DC comic. I can't totally remember what it was. To me, the whole time I was like, this is an Excalibur villain. This is an Otherworld Excalibur villain. I like everything that's happening.
Yeah, so you're thinking Excalibur villain. Sean tweeted whatever you tweeted. I was thinking, oh, Royal Flush Gang. That's what she's doing. Okay, she wants to work for the Joker. That's cool.
I think that's what Sean tweeted. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably
that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sean,
I've been reading a lot of X books lately, so I was just feeling an Excalibur vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she definitely did a little Harley Quinn thing. Yeah.
Yeah, with the like puff sleeves and stuff. We respect it. We love a comic book look in wrestling. But Ronda can't hold her own with Becky on the mic, so it was just kind of awkward. So then Ronda's like, I'll give you my answer on SmackDown. We record on Thursday, so by the time you listen to this, you'll probably know the answer. It feels like it's going to be Charlotte, or it feels like it will be some kind of like triple threat. Let's be real. But an exciting thing, Ronda leaves, and then Lita's music hits, and Lita and Becky have this nice back and forth where Becky's still definitely the heel, but respects Lita. Lita kind of goads her into a match. They're going to have a WWE's women's title match. That's so exciting. Becky's probably going to win, but like I'm holding out hope as like a nostalgic fan that it would be so awesome for Lita to get another championship run, like a la like Edge. Like Edge comes back and gets like a really good run. I want a really good run like that for Lita. I want her back on TV. But then I remember that it's going to be at Elimination Chamber, and it does kind of like take a lot of the wind out of my sails, because even though they have had women's matches on that show before, and there are arguments to be made that is a type of progress, it's still not going to be the match that it should be, because they are going to have to wear restrictive outfits, and it's going to have to be probably pretty short, and it's going to have to be really, really controlled in a way that like somebody who's really hyped for Lita versus Becky for a championship title in 2020, like that's not the match that I want to see, right? So hopefully maybe it ends in shenanigans and we get it at WrestleMania with no restrictions. Who knows? And then if we're thinking about the WWE women's tag titles on the main roster, that's kind of up in the air. There's been rumors about the Bellas maybe staying and doing a tag title run. I mean, I can't think of a single other women's tag team right now other than people who hold the belts.
And they barely wrestle.
Yeah.
Other teams. Like they wrestle, obviously Queen Zelina and Carmella wrestle, but they don't wrestle together. The last time they defended those titles, they didn't. No, they defended them against Nikki and
Rhea, who are no longer
who broke up. That was the genesis of them breaking up, and then now their thing, I guess, is over.
Well, there isn't a real deep women's roster right now. There's like WWE doesn't have a really deep roster in general, but there's not really a deep women's roster specifically, and a lot of people are tied up in some kind of title scene or have like mini feuds going on, like Naomi and Sonya and Nikki and Rhea. Sonya
had on the jacket. Remember that?
She had on the jacket. yeah, so I don't really know who else it would be. So I hope we get some clarification on that. Obviously, Bella Army for life. Like, I would love to see that. There's just it's hard because there's like a lot of cool stuff happening, but it's also like I feel like in the women's title scene, but I feel like everything has a caveat to it, right? Like the women's Royal Rumble was really cool, except for it was booked pretty poorly, and also Ronda won, and that was kind of like lackluster for a lot of people. I know a lot of people are excited, and if you're one of those people that are excited about it, I'm very, very happy for you. I even personal stuff with Ronda Rousey aside, I don't think that she's a very good wrestler, and so it does suck that there are better wrestlers on the roster that aren't getting that slot. Becky and Lita gonna be really cool, but it's got this like elimination chamber funk
Yeah, it's
on
got the
it.
Saudi Arabia air of disaster hovering above it, and it does taint that. I would like to see those two go WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, like something that is a meaningful premium live event, as they're calling it now. Not we're taking blood money live event. Like, and also even that aside, like you said, just in an environment that is much more welcoming to them.
Yeah. And then the Kaylee Ray Mandy Rose stuff, there's like the weird NXT vibes on it. And then both the tag title scenes are kind of just like a mess right now. So it's just, there's a lot of cool things, but there's also a lot of like, what is happening? Can we get it together, please?
I don't think that's possible for them to get it together. It's stuff, we know how wrestling is.
WrestleMania is around the corner. They better get on it. It's supposed to be a stupendous 2-night
I
event.
heard.
If they want it to be super stupendous, they better get on it.
Hearing how stupendous that thing is supposed to be. No, not just one night of stupendousness. 2 nights of stupendousness.
Double the stupendous, double the fun.
Right. It's going to be like those Doublemint commercials where they had the twins.
See, we got to have the Bella twins back.
Right. Imagine the Bellas in that commercial holding up the 2 and saying stupendous times 2. Imagine that. That's WrestleMania. 2 of those. That's great.
That commercial sounds great to me.
Well.
All right.
Well, we're better than their PR people.
Well, obviously. So we have one question from a listener, emailed to us from a listener, Ashley. It says, now that the 90-day non-compete clauses are out for so many people who were released from WWE, do you expect to see anyone in AEW?
That's a great question. Maybe Keith Lee.
Yeah, Keith Lee feels like the obvious one.
Because they need a bigger body. AEW, and this isn't a diss. AEW is a bunch of smaller guys. I'm short myself, so I'm not dissing them. But it's, but there also is not a lot of big guys in AEW. Yeah. I'm talking like big as in just girth. Outside
and big
of
guys who can go, right?
And yes. And Keith Lee can go
off the top rope, man.
Yeah. There's not much Keith Lee can't do in the ring. He can talk on the stick. He can hold his own with anybody. He is a change of pace from what they have. It's interesting. We're talking about people coming in or coming out after the Bryan Danielson promo from recent Dynamite, where he talked about, look around here. Who are the champions? Look around here. We got this person coming out with the best friends, and we got, he's being the meta guy, just saying, what is AEW? And
that is the perfect heel gimmick for Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, the meta guy. Like, I'm here to talk about what's really happening in a way that that I'm right, but you also want to punch me in the face for it.
Right. Yes, I love it. It's a flip on the new Daniel Bryanson character. It's the flip on that. It's, oh yeah, he is right, isn't he?
We love a heel who's right.
Him. Yes.
That was Jon Moxley's face the whole time. He was like, yeah, I came back to kick butt and I do thirst for blood, but also I'm not like a dick about it like you.
I do thirst for blood. But
I can be chill about it. And you
but he also had
an asshole in your white shirt.
Right. But he also was like, you know what? Maybe. Like he had the look of like, maybe. he had the Larry David look. And Keith Lee is the remedy to that. Like from a meta standpoint and just from a real standpoint, they need someone like Keith. There are plenty. Oh, the women. I mean, they need they need more women.
Every roster needs Athena, right?
Yes.
Athena, for those of
Yes.
you who don't know, was Ember Moon's stage name, wrestler
Ember
name.
Moon was Ember Moon is Athena's stage name.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
So Athena, every roster could benefit with Athena.
Yes, and they definitely could. They need her, not just from a standpoint of, hey, she can go, but in the news recently, back to the news real quick, Ronda, who we just talked about, credits her with getting Ronda in shape. Post baby. She went to Athena. Athena got her right. Look at her now.
You get somebody on your roster that can not only go and make everybody look good and also like potentially have a killer title run in their future, but also help build your younger talent and like train them a little. Yeah. Hire Athena. 100%.
So those are the first two I could think of. I really want Ali to go there. Obviously, he's not in this conversation, but I really want Ali to go to AEW. Not just because I think Ali is really talented, but because much like Keith Lee, he brings a different flavor to that roster. He is unlike anyone in all of wrestling. Not just his look, but his way of using his brain to make his gimmick, whatever that gimmick is, 10 times better. And to really, like, he's a smart person's wrestler. And I don't mean it as far as his wrestling, but just his character work. It's smart, and
there's like a believability about everything he says, whether it's a babyface gimmick or a heel gimmick. Like he speaks from like a depth of passion that you're just like, yeah, sure, I'll follow you into hell. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll be Retribution. Yeah, let's go do that. Yeah, sure.
My Retribution name is,
Pancake. I'm Pancake. Sure.
Yeah, I'm Fire Stick. Let's go.
But so yeah, to answer that question, thank you again for the question. Yes, those are people I think, and the people of Stella thinks, which means more than likely we're probably wrong, and it'll be someone we didn't mention, and we might be disappointed.
Who's ready for Eva Marie and AEW?
Right. It'll also be the hottest free agent signing. It'll be.
You know who they should sign?
Who?
Free agent Cody Rhodes.
Oh. That is true. They should. I wonder when Cody's 90 days is up.
I think he would really do well on an AEW roster.
I think he would. He does like to bleed a lot. That might be a hindrance. But other than that, I mean, Brandy's already there.
I was surprised that the Punk MJF match didn't get like more like violent or bloody.
Well, you know why. Cody wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, he owns the right to getting bloody in the ring. You're right.
Moxley wants to drink the blood. Cody wants to bleed the blood. That's how this works. And if you are not one of those two, blood is not allowed in your match or your feud, no matter how much of a blood feud it actually is. Sorry. I don't make the rules. I just know Cody does.
Let's hit up the lightning round. What are your quick last-minute thoughts?
So, the lack of plan for the WWE Championship. Don't know what they're doing. No idea. They don't know what they're doing.
I feel like they wake up and go, I don't know. This? Sure.
Yeah. Brock said title for title. Did you okay that? Nah, I didn't. Oh, well, that sounds great to me. Title for title. So maybe they're doing title for title at Mania. Brock versus Roman.
Do you think they're trying to make the championships like Kiss? And become one championship?
I really do, because this whole Roman Brock thing showed me they do not care about that championship. They don't. And the fact Bobby Lashley has nothing lined up right now, like outside of the Elimination Chamber, for like he comes to Raw post Royal Rumble, Brock is his first interaction, and then it's like, oh yeah, Elimination Chamber. There's nothing there for Bobby. I just don't think they care.
Well, and especially because, like, they don't really like to book Brock to lose, but he's in the Elimination Chamber. Because if it's like, okay, Paul Heyman turns on Brock, was with Roman the whole time, no big deal.
Mhm.
I did predict it.
You did.
No
Oh,
big deal.
right. Yes, yes. Mhm.
If that was the plan the whole time, that's shenanigans, whatever. Brock should just be focused on Roman and that feud. But Brock shows up on Monday and is like, hey, Bobby. It's like, wait
Right,
a
which is
minute. You just
that's
got
my
out
point.
of this. Leave him
Yeah.
alone.
But then he said, "Oh, well, the reason I want to do it is because I want title for title." So then it's like, well, hold up. Why does Brock all of a sudden want title for title? You know what I mean? Like,
And if it
what?
was going to be title for title, like, why didn't he just keep the title?
Right. Why did he lose the title? And then why did you have if he's going to Elimination Chamber to win the title,
Yeah.
why did you have him win the Rumble?
Well,
Because he
because
could
they
just
didn't want
easily
to have another challenger because they want to make those championships belts kiss.
see, and we did the logic, and that's how we got there. So that's one thing. Also, this week, Becky was on Smoking Skull session. I really do miss the Steve Austin show. That's a different thing. She was on Smoking Skull, and she really got into the nitty gritty of what happened with her and Charlotte. And basically, as it's been reported, there was something that was supposed to happen. Becky knew. Becky says that she knew it wasn't going to go down that way. She told people she's not going to go for this. She's not going to do it. Like she agreed to it, yeah, but she's not going to do it when it comes time to do it. She told people when I go to hand her the title, she's going to drop it. Or when she hands me the title, it's like what she knew the exchange was not going to work. And she talked about it on his show and she went into the detail and she just said there was a lot of heat. And there's a lot of vitriol between the two of us. That wasn't the inciting incident for the vitriol, but that didn't help any of it. And she says that maybe when we're done with wrestling, when all this is behind us, we'll be able to be friends again. But as of right now, no. Um, yeah. And I didn't see it. I read this on cagesideseats.com. Plug.
Pretty good website.
Great website. But I don't believe that's all kayfabe on Becky's part. Like I believe that is legitimate. Those are her feelings, like her real feelings, and that sucks. It sucks that friends. Friends. How many of us have them? Yeah. It sucks, but at the same time, it sucks more that she knew this was going to play out like that, and no one believed her, and she was just like, "All right, fine, we're going to go out." And she said she was so angry in the moment, but there was nothing she could do. She was so angry, but show must go on.
Flair's gonna flare.
Yep, they sure are.
My lightning round picks are Kofi Kingston's elimination in the Royal Rumble.
Mm.
I mean, there's so many things to be disappointed about in the Royal Rumble this year. We had some friends over to do our little Rumble party. We had 2 new people this year. One who got into wrestling during the pandemic, and while she was working, she would just have old WrestleManias and Rumbles on. So like she's seen probably more than I have of the old pay-per-views at this point. And then her wife who came with her cross stitch. And I was like, I love this. But they were here, and we were like, oh, Kofi's music's hit. He's coming out. We were trying to explain to them like, this is like Kofi's thing. It's going to be so exciting. We were like so all hyped. And then Kofi tries to do his miraculous save, and things happen. People make mistakes, miscalculations happen, but both of his feet hit the ground, and that is a bummer for us, a bummer for the plans, because I'm sure there were spots with him. I think that was a rumor. Him and Biggie had other spots in the match. It I'm sure it sucked for him as a performer to feel like, man, I went out and I donked it up. People look forward to this every year. But also, the WWE camera crew and the people in the truck literally miss big spots in the Rumble the whole night for both the Rumbles. People getting eliminated, and then you look and be like, hey, where did this person go? Oh, they were eliminated? I didn't see it because no camera was on it. And yet, he's going to do a tricky spot. And I know part of it is that you want to catch it, his unbelievable stuff, but the camera's got to be right on Kobe when he messes up. We can't switch to another camera. We
Yeah.
can't cover it.
You know what's
That was a
funny about
bummer.
that? A friend of mine sent me your tweet saying that, and I said, "That's my girl. That's my co-host." I was so proud.
Well, it's
Like
because
just randomly
this
sent me
podcast
that.
is just me rehashing my tweets. They are the
That's the
same.
secret.
But I mean, again, Rider Day for the New Day. Kofi is one of my like main guys, and to see him have that epic fail, it sucked for me, but also my heart went out to him and was like, man, that probably sucked for him more than it did for us.
Yeah, and not only sucked that he didn't do it, but I'm sure the actual impact of hitting hitting the guardrail, whatever they call that thing, as hard as he did,
Yeah.
like it really like his looked like his chest caved in, more.
Yeah, so it's like,
And
well,
yeah, like more than but it looked painful. I was just like, oh, yo, is he? I really wondered, was like, yo, is he okay?
yeah.
It was a
Bruised
lot.
ego and a bruised sternum.
Yeah. Oof.
And finally, my final thought to wrap out this podcast, Sami Zayn getting kicked out of the Jackass Forever premiere. Sami Zayn is just a delight. Tens across the board. The way that he commits to his ridiculous conspiracy theory character, the way he has grown out his hair to look like a college freshman really into like On the Road by Jack Kerouac and like having questionable posters up in his dorm room. The way he just commits and double downs, and also the way that it's clear that celebrities want to work with him, not only because I'm sure they know that any spots they do in the ring with him will be safe because he's such a good wrestler, but because he is a good actor and is somebody who elevates the people around him, and he's probably really fun to play off of. And I love the idea that Johnny Knoxville and him started this feud. And I bet you, this is my headcanon, I bet you they started this feud and it's fun. And then Johnny Knoxville in, catering looked at Sammy and went, it'd be really funny. And they just were like, yeah, let's do it. And that's the whole thing about Jackass. It's a bunch of dudes hanging around and going, what would be very funny. And I love that Sami Zayn has kind of been folded into that. And this kayfabe, not kayfabe, whatever gimmick is still alive. And just props to Sami Zayn because he rules. I love
I
him.
could see them doing an actual match at WrestleMania just because of all of this, and I think it would be really fun. I'm sorry, it would be stupendous.
Yeah, stupendous. Use the right word.
Yes,
also, since we're in the lightning round and we're talking about celebrities, shout out to Bad Bunny for being the best. He killed it in the Rumble.
He did. He also props him for he took an F5, right?
Yeah. His
Good
face
for
when
him,
Brock's
man.
music hit, it was perfect. Did you see the video of Rey Mysterio giving him his mask backstage?
Yes, that was
That
very
was great.
adorable. That was adorable. Props to Ray, as always. We love Ray on the show, and that is the ultimate sign of respect.
Yeah.
And I believe Bad Bunny earned all of that. Go on tour, man. Wear that Rey Mysterio mask while you're on tour. Do that.
Doesn't he get his masks made by like Louis Vuitton too? Aren't they like crazy expensive?
Yeah, they're really expensive. Yeah, like Ray's been wrestling for how long? Ray's
no
loaded.
slouch.
So, yeah, exactly.
So overall, the Royal Rumble was kind of a bust, but there were some things to like about it.
Yeah, the men's part. Yeah, big old bust. mostly just because it was anticlimactic. And we talked about this. There's no suspense in their Rumble because no one is built up to the point where we feel like they can win. Because if it ain't Brock, sorry.
Yeah. Well, even with the women's Rumble, like they built up a bunch of suspense, and then they ruined all the suspense.
Yeah, they let all the air out the balloon as soon as Bad Reputation hit. I was like, oh, well, all right. Let's just all sit back and watch and wait.
Let's all sit back and watch.
Yeah.
Well, maybe next week will be a brighter week in wrestling with less.
We won't have any Brian Kendrick next week, so.
Yeah, with less anti-Semitism and more competent booking. One can only hope.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it for this week. Don't stress. We'll be back.
If you'd like to be on the podcast, make sure to send your recorded questions and comments to cagesidesocials@gmail.com, just like these other people already did. You should do what they did.
Yeah,
And you might be featured on next week's episode.
It's totally fine to send a written question if you don't like the sound of your own voice, but feel free to send a recorded question. Mix it up. We want to feature you guys.
Yeah. We love the show, and we love that you love the show. So just, be a part of it. That's all I'm saying.
If you want to follow us on Twitter, I'm at Stella_Cheeks.
And I'm at Abstract Poetic, a 3 where that E is supposed to be.
And of course, you can find more wrestling coverage at Cageside Seats on Twitter and Instagram.
And if we missed something, and I'm sure we did, and you desperately want to talk about it, head over to cagesideseats.com and chat with us in the comments of this episode post.
Until next time, Cagesiders.
The tapes are always rolling.